This is Self-Starter. Hi everyone, welcome back to Self-Starter. This is a podcast that highlights small business owners, the self-employed and freelancers who have taken the plunge to create their own desirable lifestyle. My name is Andy Dowling. I'm also the host of the Andy Social Podcast. I play bass in the Australian metal band Lord, and I'm a dispute resolution specialist. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching at Andy Dowling, or you can go to selfstarter.com.au where you can learn more about yours truly and anything and everything to do with the self-employment world. This episode is with Andrew Coldwell of Kluwell Publications. Kluwell Publications develops a range of reading products to encourage positive reading attitudes and help parents and teachers track the progress of students with milestones along the way. The business was created by former school teachers and principals Stan Kluzek and Andrew Coldwell in 1998, and the name Kluwell Publications is a combination of both Stan and Andrew's surnames, which has unified them to a concept that was actually many years in the making. Since the launch of the business, the guys have seen consistent success not only with impressive national sales, but they've launched fulfilment operations in both New Zealand and the UK. Despite all of the growth, the business continues to operate from their location in Bendigo, where it all originally started. Since then, Stan's retired and Andrew now has a new business partner who is helping to ensure that the business continues to grow and prosper. I caught up with Andrew to talk about how they first created these reading aids for students and how the idea sat with them for quite a number of years before the right set of circumstances presented themselves and they could take that step to launch the idea into a business. We spoke about the learn-as-you-go approach that they've had to take on and some of the earlier challenges of navigating their way through a new world removed from their teaching backgrounds. We also spoke about the growth overseas and how fulfillment deals have helped with that expansion. As always, you can get more information from this episode in the show notes over at selfstarter.com.au. You can also check out the business by going to kluwell.com. That's KLUWELL.com. And as always, I'll have my key takeaways after this chat. But for now, please enjoy this really insightful and informative episode with Andrew Coldwell of Kluwell Publications.
My name's Andrew Coldwell. I have a business partner who I started the business with back in 1996 when we formed a partnership. Prior to forming a partnership, though, we knew each other as at neighbouring schools, where both backgrounds are primary school teachers, and my business partner's name is Stan Kluzek. So we were head teachers at two small rural schools down in the Otways near Colac. Anyway, during that time, Stan and I sort of came upon an idea to help encourage kids to read at home. And it was a pretty crude little way of doing it, just on a bit of paper, which we photocopied, and anyway, that seemed to work okay. That's sort of how we then started our business in '96, on the basis that we managed to get a few schools who were interested in using an actual printed copy. Prior to that, though, we had tried to get someone to publish our reading books, but no one was interested. So I suppose, Andy, that's in a nutshell how we formed our business and how we became Kluwell Publications. My business partner's surname is Kluzek and mine is Coldwell. So we put the clue and the well together, and that's how we got Kluwell.
Why not? Well, a question, just going back to when you were both teaching and both in those respective schools, what was the conversation like? Was there something that you could see that there was a pain point or a gap there that sparked this idea? I know that you started with just sort of creating your own bits of paper and some structure around it, but where did the inspiration come from?
Well, that's an interesting question. I suppose we've been using these sheets of paper, which was a very it's not a very engaging way of encouraging the kids to read. And I had seen a little booklet, I suppose, that had been put together by someone at a school I visited. And I took that, and basically we took that and just we redeveloped it to a lot higher level. And I suppose we just saw a need, I suppose. We could see it was a way of including tips for the parents to help with reading at home. And we added awards at every 25 nights the kids read at home. And so that then became the incentive for the students. Whereas just on a bit of paper, there was no incentive. It was just a very boring, mundane task. So I suppose being teachers, we just saw a way of encouraging the kids to become regular readers. And Andy, we never have been trying to teach reading as such. This idea we had was purely to encourage the kids to become more engaged and want to read.
And when you started to develop on this idea, was there a light bulb moment where you sort of thought, oh, this could be a business, this could be something that we could create something on the side, like we're both teachers, or was it something that it was more of just the passion behind actually just wanting to have an impact, and then the business side came later on?
You're spot on there, Andy. There was a light bulb moment. Stan came around. I remember we were on school holidays at Christmas. We both lived in Colac, and he came around and he said, Andy, why don't we make a book for the year? And at that stage, we both had Apple Mac computers just put into the school. They were disk drives. You look back and we thought they were fantastic. Well, so I suppose you talk about IT, that really was the impetus for us to put our little book together in a booklet form, which we could print off and then photocopy. So that was the light bulb idea. And so we produced that, and that's when we tried to get someone to publish it without success. So from that, we just started using that with our own students. And, sort of we did get people saying, oh, gee, that's a good idea. Can we use that? That sort of thing. And it just sort of grew a bit, I suppose. Yeah,
I was just going to ask you about, the distribution of it and getting word out there. I mean, I'm assuming just from the relationship that you had just with your partnership there, that there must be, I guess, when there's, you've got a bunch of schools in the area, that there must be some sort of association or group with teachers that do get together semi-regularly on, and discuss different topics and things like that. So was that sort of where, I guess, the news about what you were both doing got out to a wider reach of people?
No, Andy, it was actually, it took quite a while for that to really transpire. I moved from Colac to another location. I got a promotion as a principal at a bigger school, and that was in the Wimmera at a little school called Matoa Primary School. So Stan and I kept in touch, and we developed 3 books over that time. So this was sort of in the late 80s, early 90s. At this stage, we still hadn't got it published. And it was still pretty much just our own schools using this little book. And then in 96, I got a promotion to Bendigo, to a large school, not as a principal, as a leading teacher. And that's sort of where we started our business, I basically guess. From my experience at that larger school, at that stage, the Ministry of Education, because I was in the state system, they used to have a conference called the Early Years Conference. It was very well attended by teachers from across Victoria. they get they could get 4,000 teachers there. Quite a big group. Anyway, at that conference, I managed to get my principal let me have a stand at the conference, and we had these books on display, and we just gave them out, photocopies of them, and we got a teacher's name, and I think we got about 150 names of teachers and their school name. And then what Stan and I did, we borrowed some money, and we actually got our junior level one, which we would call your foundation grade 1, 2 focused level. We got that printed in Bendigo, and I think we got about 3,000 copies printed, and then we sent out a pretty rough sort of flyer we made up to those 150 teachers we had, and from that, we ended up selling 22,000 units. It was unbelievable. I can tell you, Andy, it was amazing because you talk about Stan and I had no business background. We had no idea what we were doing really, but we did think we had something that teachers wanted, and I can tell you, I went down to the cash converters and I bought a phone fax answering machine.
Oh, yeah.
We were renting, my wife and I had 3 children. We were renting a house because we'd just moved to Bendigo. And the owner let me put in another phone line for the fax and phone, and we went down to cash converters, bought a phone fax answering machine for cheap as chips. And, we did this mail out, and I came home not long after we did that, and my wife said, "Oh, we got an order today." And it was for 600 books. And we didn't even have, and that was for all 3 levels, Andy, and we didn't even have all 3 levels printed.
Oh, right.
We only had the 1 level printed. So we had to go and borrow some more money and get the other 2 printed. So it was pretty amazing. I can tell you that first school, I can still remember it vividly, that order. So, it's amazing how we just started off very, very green, I can tell you.
Well, I mean, it's always in hindsight that you start to see where all the links and how things sort of fell into place. But, just listening to you explain, those years from when you had this very rough version of the concept and just doing it yourselves because it's something that you feel is necessary and something that can add value to people that are in your respective schools. But then, a couple of transfers later and more networking in a bigger school, and then just happen to be in right place, right time.
Exactly.
And building this, you've got this collection of contacts that you've built from, this conference, and then just everything just falls into place. And there's a, I mean, for me, the big thing that I see there is just patience. You've got this great idea, and it's just, you just keep going and you just keep doing what you're doing and not getting frustrated about it. And you just found the opportunity when it came.
We just kept chipping away, really, and I must admit, we never expected to go very far with this idea. I can tell you, we just thought if we can make a few extra dollars and keep teaching, that's going to be fantastic. But we had such rapid growth. I think that first year we sold 22,000 units. The next year it was 60,000, and then the third year we sold 100,000. So that was the growth. It went really off really quickly because there was nothing like it out there for schools. It was sort of the right spot, the right time. But I tell you what, it was a learning experience. We had no business ideas, so we were very fortunate that we had a good idea, and it did take off.
Well, a question that I have around that, especially sort of being green to it all and just taking every step as it comes and just trying to work it out, trial and error. But I mean, how did the two of you how did the two of you get together, on a regular basis and develop these things? I mean, I look at the stuff that you have available now, and they look fantastic aesthetically. They've got great artwork. There's structure to them. It looks really good. And obviously, when you first started doing that, they probably didn't look anything like that. But how did the two of you sort of get together? Did you have some sort of regular? Where did you meet up? Was it just at one of your places? I mean, what did it look like to sort of chip away at this idea and slowly build on this content and build it and create it?
Well, no, very good question, because Stan was still living down in Colac. We were both teaching full-time still. It was challenging. It was still hard. Trying to work full-time and run a business was difficult. I suppose our initial books that we produced were very raw, but we had the support of our local printer, and the printer's wife did all the layout. She rejigged the layout to a lot higher level so that it could be printed. She was so keen and enthusiastic, Judy Walker. Unfortunately, Judy passed away about 3 years after we met her, which was really sad, but she was a gorgeous lady. And then her husband, Daryl, still did our printing. But the way it's progressed, we were so raw. We just used clip art. And then I think I managed to get Gary Clark, the Swamp cartoons.
Yes.
I said to Stan, why don't we see if we can use his clip art? And I went up to, I think he lives up in Queensland, and he let us use his clip art, and he charged $5 a graphic. I mean, it was he was so generous. It was quite funny how it sort of gave it a real lift, just his graphics. And then we moved on again. We kept trying to, about every 3 years, we'd try and come up with a new edition. So, yeah, we used to meet. We would talk. We took suggestions from teachers, how to try and improve them. So the main thing was trying to get them to look a lot more appealing. And, I mean, you said yourself, you have a look now, they're a very high level of, the graphics are sensational. Now, that was probably the next big change. We did engage a guy, and he's a local guy from Castlemaine, who now lives in Bendigo, a fellow called John Veakin. And John's been doing our graphics now for over 10 years. He's brilliant to work with. He's so easy, but he's very talented. And it's a credit to him, really. He's lifted what we've got to a really high level.
And how did you find him?
Just pure luck. I had a young guy do some graphic works for me. He said, you should try get in touch with this fellow John Veakin. He might be able to do some work for you. So look, it was really just word of mouth, and just rang John up, and look, that's sort of pretty much how it started. So he's now done probably, like I say, over 10 years. He's probably done about, I'd say probably 5 editions for us, 4 or 5 editions. So yeah, we've had a long association.
It definitely helps. It definitely helps when you've got, I guess, you're surrounding yourself with people that have the expertise to be able to lift the concept or the idea to that next level. Because I think a lot of people get stuck in the thought that they have to do everything themselves, and so then they think, well, I'm not good at art, so I'm not going to bother pursuing this, and I can only write things out. But then, the successful people or the successful businesses are the ones that understand what they're not good at, and they find the people that can assist with those particular aspects.
Spot on, Andy. I think the other thing is it's about building relationships and being loyal. So yeah, we've developed a really good relationship with John. We have been working with our printer at the moment, who's also Bendigo based, for probably 15 years now. So, after I mentioned Judy, who did our original layout and stuff, and Daryl Walker, basically Darryl sold his business, and we got approached by another printing company called Mulqueen Printers, and they were brilliant. And we do all our printing with them, and so we're so lucky to have someone Bendigo based, again, where we've got a good relationship. So
Is that
you're right.
Well, I was just going to say, sort of really quickly, is it, or has it been important to have those local people there that are supporting in that way? Because I know a lot of businesses that will look offshore and they'll look abroad or interstate and find people that can probably get you a better deal. But is there an added value of having somebody that's pretty close
certainly
by?
is. Oh, certainly. Well, they probably get sick of me going and knocking on their door and seeing them. I'm probably out the printers. I'm probably out there once a week at least, even in quiet times. Look, the benefits are all our incidental printing. We know if we've got a job that needs to be done, they'll do it, and they'll drop things to sort of accommodate us. It's really important, I think. If we don't have all our stock sitting on the floor here, it would be impossible. I mean, we sell a lot of these books, and you just couldn't physically, if you got them printed in China and had them sitting, I'd need a pretty big warehouse to put them all.
Mm.
And then you've got the issues of, if there's a problem with a print run or something, well, China's a long way away. It still takes a long time for books to get here. Whereas, we can get our stock delivered. We have sort of a monthly print run, but they just bring them as I need them, really. I say, look, can you deliver so many? And they will. It's terrific. I just think local is best if you can. Obviously, there might be some things that can't be done, and we actually have got one diary which isn't a reading diary, but we do get one product printed in China because they simply can't do it. It's coil bound.
Mm.
But that's it. Every other bit of printing they do for us, and it's terrific.
That's great. I think it's an important thing to consider, because sometimes I think everyone's looking for the cheapest option possible, and sometimes that can actually cost you more money in the long term, just from the extra challenges of communication, or just being too far away from a problem that might arise later on down the track. But having somebody close by and having that rapport and that relationship, they're going above and beyond for you. They're helping you out. But then if there is a problem, then you can quickly jump onto it.
No, exactly. I can tell you, we did have, we've had some issues, and look, they're so easy to work with. It's nothing better than being able to jump in the car and you're 10 minutes away. It's fantastic. So, but again, it's been a journey, and I'm not sure how much further we can improve the print quality of what we've got. But you were talking about IT and how it's impacted. Andy, I just can't believe how much it's changed since we started our business. Stan, my business partner, did our first website. You know what I mean? And did a terrific job. And then it just became too complex and complicated when we had to get a shopping cart, and so forth. So our business has grown where it's required a lot more, too much. You can't embrace the technology these days yourself. You do have to employ other people around you to do a lot of that.
Well, I was going to ask about some of those, I guess, the growing pains or the challenges that you had, especially when you printed X amount of books up for that first run, and then suddenly your sales blew out and you had to go and get a whole bunch more printed. Some of those early challenges around that and managing that growth, but then also that transition into, realizing, wow, there's an online marketplace here, and we need to be immersed in that as well as what we're doing beforehand as well. So, what were some of those challenges around that time?
Look, there's quite a few challenges. The first challenge was working from home. That was number one. Keeping stock in the garage.
Yep. Okay.
And then we had to go to a storage shed, and keep stock there and so forth. That was a bit of a challenge at the start. So in the early days, it was from home. So we got to a stage where Stan and I bought a shed, in a light industrial area, which has got big enough floor space. I think it's about 20 by 12 metres with an office space. That made a huge difference because we could then have a lot more stock sitting here, not somewhere else. So that was a great change. So yeah, that was a hurdle to get towards. What's some of the other things? Well, I think just the way, computer-wise, when we started, we used to use, I borrowed a friend's hard drive, for example. We didn't have the money to buy something. So a friend lent me a hard drive with a program called FileMaker Pro, and that's how I made up our invoices. So thanks to my mate for giving me his hard drive and a software program. And then, we bought I think it was, one of the first, those early, I think it was Reckon or QuickBooks or one of those sort of software programs. And that was a really good change. That certainly made things a lot easier. Now, one of the other things Stan and I managed to do, because he was in Colac and I was in Bendigo, and sometimes it wasn't practical for us in Bendigo to do all the packing and so forth. This is in our early days before we got the shed. We set Stan up in Colac so he could actually operate the business himself down there. And I just used to divert our phone fax entry machine to his phone fax entry machine in Colac. And he had stock and stuff down there, and he could take all the orders and do the packing and so forth and get them shipped out from Colac.
There you go.
So,
a good backup there. So you got two.
It was a good backup.
Yeah, you got two locations.
Yeah, that's right. So in those early days, the first few years, I think about 3 to 5 years, we did it pretty much ourselves, and then we employed a person on a casual basis. She was a mum from some of the kids I used to teach at the school I was at, and she and her husband had both lived in Colac, and Stan knew them as well. So Jenny started working for us on a casual basis and took all the pressure off. That made a huge difference.
Was it ever hard to bring more people in? Just I don't know what you're both like from your personalities, but one challenge that I've always had personally is to get other people involved, because I like to have my hands in everything. I like to have a sense of control, and so it's hard to let go of things. And maybe there's a bit of a trust factor there as well. But was there any challenges around bringing somebody else into something that you'd both created and were quite passionate about, or was it just something that was absolutely needed and you were excited to get someone on board?
Well, I suppose Jenny's, when we first got some assistance there, Jenny's role was, answering the phone, processing orders and, picking and packing and getting the orders out. So that really took a lot of the pressure off and, enabled us to do other things, I suppose. That's what it sort of led to. And I suppose because the business went through such rapid growth, I resigned from teaching and just went full time in the business, and enabled us to start extending our range of products and trying to improve them. So, and work on extending our market. So that was the next challenge. Funny, that just reminded me. We used to do our mail outs, put them together ourselves, and we'd get the kids and they'd insert them in the envelopes, and we'd print the labels and all that sort of stuff. It takes ages. Well, eventually, I got jack of that and said, let's employ someone. So there's quite a few, there's some other industrious sort of types who have set up those sorts of industries, and We've dealt with a couple of companies, and we now deal with one in Bendigo. Once again, have got a very good relationship with. They do all that sort of stuff, so we don't have to worry about doing the mailings, because we do. I think there's about 7,500 primary schools across Australia. We do a mail out to every year.
Wow.
So we don't have to worry about sticking them in envelopes. You'd have stuff everywhere.
Oh, I can't. I could imagine the excitement when you're first doing it for like the very first time, because it's, you the potential's there. You can't wait to get, potentially responses back from different people just from the information that you're giving. But after a while, I couldn't think of anything worse. And especially if you get into 7,500, that's a lot of envelopes and a lot of stickers and a lot of sore fingers after a while of sticking things on.
Oh, they're set up. I mean, they've got equipment and stuff too, but they still do a lot of it by hand, and they're skilled at that. I wouldn't say I was skilled at it.
One of the things that you just touched on before, and something that I looked at when I was on the website, is the business has expanded, and you've got operations or something set up in New Zealand and also the UK as well. So what was that transition like, and where did the idea come from that, obviously there's some success here in Australia and you're doing quite well. Where did the idea come about where you thought, well, let's see if we can take this abroad, and geez, I mean, that just seems like a daunting thing to take on.
Exactly. Look, I think the first, we thought, look, we've got a really good product. This is selling really well. Look, let's have a look at some overseas markets. So we thought New Zealand immediately, because Australia uses, Mari Clay, she's developed this reading recovery program, which focuses on children in grade 1 whose reading levels aren't up to where they should be. So she was the guru who developed this program, and it lifts the kids to back up to a high level so that they can, they don't miss, I suppose, and they can then move forward and be confident readers. So it's a very intensive one-on-one sort of program that the kids involved in until they reach a certain level. And it's only in grade 1. But anyway, so the long and the short of it is there's been this long association where teachers in Australia were familiar with the work that she had done and had embraced that in our own schools. And we thought, well, here's an opportunity. We've got a good idea that promotes reading, and it's a Commonwealth country. So we set up some meetings and just flew over, and we tried to build a market there. We tried to get some companies to take our product on board, and again, we had no luck. It was a bit like trying to find a printer. We had no luck. And so I think we did some work with Austrade, and they recommended a fulfilment company. Are you familiar with what fulfilment companies do?
A little bit, but do you want to explain it?
Okay, well, the nuts and bolts of a fulfilment company is they basically act on your behalf. So a customer would essentially, or can think that you are them. Does that sound, I said that right? So a school, in our case, would ring them up, and they answer it as Kluwell Publications. They can take an order. They've got stock over there that we've sent, and they will do the pick and pack. They will send it out, and they will receive the money, and they can bank it for you. So the whole process is basically removed from yourselves to them acting on your behalf. And look, it was brilliant because it enabled us to do our mail out still, and which they could organise, and then the orders start rolling in. So it was just a matter of us making sure we had stock and our marketing material organised. So then, of course, we started started into exporting, which was another interesting phase, because again we had little knowledge of what to do, and I can tell you that was a learning experience too. We sent our first pallets of books across. I think I don't know how they got across unscathed, because we didn't have them shrink wrapped very well, or even strapped. Or I tell you, Andy, that we're a lot slicker unit now. But anyway, they got across, and we got them out, and sales have been rolling in. And I think we started in New Zealand in 2002. So New Zealand schools have been great users of our reading journals, and working with a fulfilment company. We now are with another company who we've had a long association with. Look, they do a fantastic job, and I'm constantly on the phone. Not constantly, but we know we can ring, and if there's any issues, they follow them up for us. It works very well for us.
The concept of fulfillment companies, it can be quite exciting for businesses, because yes, I mean, no doubt they take a nice cut out of what they do, or what, the volume that they sell, or maybe there's a fixed fee depending on what the agreement is. But you might be making less per unit, but potentially in the long run, you're probably just making the same, or if not, you're actually making more, because your overheads go down, your time invested, they're taking a lot of that weight off your shoulders by managing all that stuff. So while you might upfront see, well, actually our cost per unit is a little bit less than what we're selling it in Australia, but all the other stuff, all the stuff that can't be measured straight away, down the track, it actually balances out, and you probably get far better deal, because you're dealing with somebody that's abroad, and there's so many extra challenges involved. So it's something that probably a lot of people up front would probably think, oh, I'm going to lose a bit of control here, and I don't my profit margins aren't going to be the same, but it actually would probably work out quite well.
Oh, look, I reckon it's a fantastic way to do business. And again, if you've got a good relationship, and it's a trust relationship. Again, it's been brilliant for us, and we have, like you say, now flowed into the UK, and we've even endeavoured to have a go in the US, which has been that's been another experience, a pretty unsuccessful experience, but we've had a lot of good trips out of it, Andy.
I bet.
But look, just one thing I haven't touched on. One thing that our business has ended up dealing a lot with, I'm not sure what you'd call it, resellers or school suppliers.
Yes.
In Australia, that's probably 70% of our market is through school suppliers or resellers. So that means only 30% of our business is where we have schools coming directly to us. So, and of course, we have to offer a discount. So it's interesting, because back in our very first year when we started, we sold those 22,000 units, we started getting calls from, these resellers. Oh, look, can you give us a discount? What discount do you give? We go, well, what discount? We don't give discounts. I can tell you that was another learning experience. So, we went from no discounts to where we had to set up some sort of a discount structure. And we got some advice and help from a fellow there who used to run a business in Ballarat, and he'd retired. And I rang him, and he came along and gave us some advice. It was fantastic. So while in New Zealand we do, you're paying the fulfilment company for their service, we're actually not paying any discount to resellers.
Right.
So, in some ways it's balanced out a little bit. So, but look, it's a really wonderful. I would recommend it to any business if they've got something they think they can sell overseas. It rather than trying to set up your own location, I mean, it's just impossible. You've got too many hurdles to cross there. So it's a really good way to go.
And just touching on the resellers, because I'm just trying to draw a parallel with some of my experience in the music world, because with we've always been a do-it-yourself band, and so we've been an independent operation, and we've always sort of taken pride in that. We've done quite well because I think we have a lot more control, and there's not as many middlemen taking cuts out of what we do as well, so that always helps. But the reselling aspect, it's probably very similar to what we've done, where we sell our product at what we would class, and I'm using the inverted commas, the wholesale rate, and sell bulk to a third party somewhere else, like a music store or somewhere overseas, and then they can sell it at a profit and make their money off it. So yes, we would do like a bulk discount for somebody, and we went through that first, and when you mentioned it, it threw me back a few years, because I remember the same sort of feelings where somebody would approach us and say, well, we want to buy X amount of copies of this product. What deal can you do? And we're like, well, it's the price on the website, or it's the price that we advertise. Like, that's it, mate. But then you sort of realize, well, there's so many advantages of people that buy in bulk, because yes, okay, your margin goes down, but the volume goes through. And then obviously, having that product out there in the public domain through their own marketing, their own distribution as well, then no doubt just brings further attention back to what you're doing and creates more opportunities as well. So it's almost like, a form of marketing. You're taking a bit of a cut, but somebody else is doing a lot of the hard yards for you.
Too right. Look, the big thing for us, if we actually had to process all the orders ourselves at the schools, you'd have to go and get a bigger warehouse. You'd be employing more people to do the packing, and it's all those other sort of complications. So, and the schools, at the end of the day, the schools like to get their book packs, if you like, where they're all, the parents can pick them up. So these organisations do all that sort of stuff, and it's interesting. There's probably many parallels, I suppose, as you say, when you're in your own business. One thing you mentioned, one of the real positives is with your own business is your own boss. Really, it's up to you what happens, isn't it, really? And I think that's one of the other fantastic benefits of being in a small business. It
is, and as daunting as it can be, because you suffer the consequences of your actions, but that obviously there's a big positive to that as well, and the energy that you put in is what you get back as well. And there's a lot of self-development opportunities along the way, where you sort of learn a lot about yourself as you try and tackle on these new challenges.
Well, Andy, one thing I would say though, I think also being a small business, we haven't been afraid to seek help, and we've had a few grants through Small Business Victoria, where we've had been able to do a review of our business, and particularly in our marketing area. And then a company will do a review and then come up with some recommendations about how we can improve things. So it's not like we've dreamed up everything ourselves, but the product, we haven't changed that. The basic concept hasn't changed, you know what I mean? But it's just trying to keep improving, and being prepared to listen and learn from everyone around you.
Well, that goes into probably the last part that I was going to talk to you about as well. Given, I guess, the journey and the path that the business has been on, and all these different chapters of building the business and having the business grow, I mean, where does it sit now, and where does it go in the future? And yes, the product hasn't changed, I guess, dramatically in what it was or what it has been as far as the concept, but what are the opportunities in the future? Where does the business sort of look to now, especially with a lot of the e-commerce stuff and a lot of online sales, and a lot of people, I think. There's a bit of a myth for a small period of time there about books, the tangible book being phased out and everything going digital, and everybody, especially with schools now, they've got their laptops and their devices that they're learning off. But I don't know. I think there's still a bit of a myth around that. I don't think it's completely changed. But, are there thoughts about, a lot more digitized, material or things like that?
No, you're absolutely spot on again. it's something we probably have always tried to avoid going down that digital path, but we did engage another local company here in Bendigo, a marketing company, and this company, really one of the things they said in their review, look, you've got to get on board this, you're going to miss the boat. You've got a good product, but you've got to have it in a digital sort of format as well. So we've been endeavouring to get an app built, a web-based app, which basically would have the reading diary on the app, and the kids could record their reading using any device, your phone or whatever. And one of the real pluses of what we're getting designed is that a teacher can log on to their own portal. They'll be able to see all their students' names, how many nights they've read for the week, how many for the year. They can view their comments, and they'll be able to send a message.
Love it.
So that is going to be really, really exciting, and we're nearly there. Keep saying we've been working this for about 3.5 years. Well, not that we've been working on it, but we've got a company we've contracted, and they've sort of subcontracted out app builders, and that has been a learning curve also. But we're nearly there, and that is also very exciting because that opens up. I think it opens up a lot of potential overseas, and one of the other things it does, our sales in our reading books are really big in the lower end, so where you get a lot of, I think the parents really, they put a lot of focus into getting their kids to want helping reading, and they start in their foundation grade 1 and 2 years. And then I think the support tends to wane a little bit. So with this app, we're hoping that the older kids, grade 3s to grade 6, they might embrace, or schools might embrace it a bit more if they've got access to recording their reading on an app. I think that would be pretty exciting for the older kids also. Because they're a bit more independent. Yeah. Whereas I think the younger kids, I just struggle with the younger kids. I like the idea of being able to sit at home with your daughter or son or friends, whatever, and sit in a quiet spot with a book and read with them and enjoy that time. Make it a really engaging, fun experience. To me, I think that's pretty critical too. So it'd be nice if we can have that mix, Andy.
Well, you've developed, and you've got the base of that whole concept of what you just explained there, where the interaction and the in-person, face-to-face value of learning in general, and you've got a product and something that's been created around that, and now to be able to develop piggyback off the back of that, where you're providing an option for that next segment of people. And also, just from what you said, like having somebody like a teacher being able to log in and be able to track the progress as well, then you're almost creating a service for the teacher in addition to the child that's learning as well. So it's quite exciting. And I just from my own personality, I love tracking progress, and if I, even as a kid, if I could, and I don't know exactly what it would look like, but even from a kid's point of view, if you can see what you're doing and you can see your progress somewhat, there's something exciting to that, because you can see that there's something building, there's something growing, and yes, you're learning and you're enjoying the process of learning, but you're also enjoying the process of that feedback and seeing the progression there as well. And I think that might tap into some of those older kids that just they're looking for the result as well as the actual experience while they're reading.
Yes. Well, that's one of the aspects of the app. We call it our redecoder. That was Stan's. He had a brainwave out mowing the lawns one day, and we used to have what we called a readometer. Yep. Where it's sort of, you could colour in the kids' progress. So I don't even know whether we've touched on what our books are actually, how they work, I suppose. But when they read at home that night, if they read, you go up, another night's reading. So we used to have the readometer, which you could colour in. So, you might get to 200 nights for the year. Well, that's a fantastic effort. Anyway, we tried to trademark that, and someone's already done it. So Stan had this brainwave, redecoder. And we've trademarked it. So there you go. So we now have our redecoder. And that will be on the app also. Fantastic. So when the kids, they get their night's reading, it'll go up another night on it looks like a thermometer basically, I suppose. But and it bubbles away and the kids can see their progress immediately.
I think that's fantastic. And it's a great... I mean, I love how the idea came from mowing the lawn, but it's but it's a great idea to be able to, you've branded it, you've created a brand around that concept, and now you've obviously you've got that secured. But I think I think people in general, whether it be a kid or an adult, I think there's something that comes off seeing progress and seeing results and seeing the outcome of whatever has been put in that effort. And so to be able to track something can be quite powerful for kids, because they're coloring something in, or now from a digital point of view can see, as you mentioned, like a thermometer changing and increasing. So it's it will encourage something in the back of their mind to want to continue doing what they're doing.
No, you're absolutely spot on again, Andy. I was just thinking, I've got quite a few nieces and nephews, and they've now got children themselves, and they're starting to use our reading diaries in whatever school, because they're sort of scattered around Australia a bit. And that's been a real buzz.
Who would have thought?
It is exciting.
It's absolutely incredible.
A bit like you, if you've got one of your songs and someone hears it and they think, gee, that's awesome, and they know who sings it, and if you come across people and really like what you do, you do get a bit of a buzz out of it.
Oh, and it's a nice little moment to sort of reflect and realise, all that time and energy and especially all the more challenging periods of time where you probably have second guessed some of the decisions that you've made along the way, and then to see the results of all that hard work is pretty incredible.
Oh, yep, exactly. Yep.
Well, I think we'll leave it on a high note. I think that's absolutely fantastic, and I'm curious to see what the future is going to bring. And when that app comes out, you'll have to let me know, and I'll update all the show notes on the website as well, and make sure people hear about it. But it's a fantastic story, and I think it's just there's quite a few things that I've certainly got out of this where it just draws parallels, as I said before, with other people in other industries that are doing their own business, and a lot of it. And the reassuring part of it is, and you mentioned earlier in the chat, was just both of you not having any experience in running a business or creating a business, and just running with the energy of just having something that you're passionate about and something that you believe in, and just everything just falling into place when in time.
Yeah. Hey, look, before we go, I do need to say one other thing, though, because Stan, my business partner, did retire at the start of last year, and I've now got a new business partner. She's a lot younger than I am, but she's really embraced our business. She's, her own background's teaching, and, she's got 4 children. But she's really taken on the social media aspect of, our business, which I've got no idea about. And look, she's doing a fantastic job there, and she's quickly come on board and understands the nuances of the business and so forth. But she's been a fantastic inclusion, and I've got a lady in the office who works brilliantly, and I think we're very lucky, Andy. So thanks for letting me share my story with you, and thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that chat with Andrew from Kluwell Publications. If you want to learn more about the business, you can go to kluwell.com, or you can go to the show notes over at selfstarter.com.au, where I'll put all the links to Andrew and the business in the show notes, including my key takeaways. Now, I got 4 key takeaways from this chat with Andrew, and as always, you know the drill. If I missed something or you got something slightly different from this episode, please let me know. Shoot a message through any of the social media platforms by searching at Andy Dowling, or you can leave a comment in the show notes over at selfstarter.com.au. However, here we go. Number 1, patience. Great ideas sometimes take time. The reading aids were an idea that Stan and Andrew had in the 80s, but it wasn't until the mid-90s when the idea went from a small creation to a widespread commercial product. The guys kept busy throughout the years, however, they never let the idea go. Through patience and continuously talking about it, it was only a matter of time when the right set of circumstances opened up to seize the opportunity to really commercialize this product. Number 2, go pre-loved and get started. Andrew went to Cash Converters to get his first bits of office equipment to help get the business started. Now, I get it. Cash Converters might not be your immediate go-to these days, but think about the second-hand market for office equipment and technology, especially through online market hubs. An unwanted present, a hardly used item, or even a factory second option could give you an affordable jump when getting your business started and getting it up and running. Number 3, the power of local help. Andrew and Stan used local printers in Bendigo to help get their orders out across the country. They could have outsourced this to a cheaper option overseas straight away. However, by having a local arrangement, they were closer to the action. They could communicate easier. They could build rapport. They could intervene and assist if there was ever a crisis. Who do you know in the area that runs their own business that might go above and beyond for you? Number 4, fulfillment options. Going abroad can be a really daunting process. However, the fulfillment option for Andrew took a lot of that hassle and stress out of having to physically do the legwork in a completely new market. Sure, you might get a smaller margin from your sales, but to save time and resources, it might actually balance out or tip in your favor long term if the volume's considerable. If you're dealing with print or a product that could be produced elsewhere, maybe a fulfillment deal could assist you with tapping into a new territory. And that's it, folks. Those are my key takeaways from this chat with Andrew Coldwell of Kluwell Publications. Now, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so via any of the social media channels, or you can leave messages all over the Self-Starter website by going to selfstarter.com.au. But for now, that's it. That's another episode in the bag. Thank you so much for the ongoing support. Thank you for the guest recommendations. I've really appreciated all that great feedback that you've been giving. I've got some amazing guests coming up in the upcoming weeks, some great stories, some great information, and hopefully things that will continue to help you all on your self-employment journey. But until then, folks, please take care, keep moving forward, keep chipping away at those bigger goals, and we'll speak soon. Ta-ta.
Larry.